All right, all right. So, so I'm back here for another live stream. I started maybe 15 minutes earlier. I probably got maybe an hour and a half tonight for this stream. Let's see, the phone's at 70%, so should be enough. You know, it's funny. I used to have a Samsung tablet. I believe I got it when I was like 12 years old, and I had it up until when I was 18, and then I sold it. But the reason I'm bringing it up is I don't know, like, if there was an issue with it or something, but you could have it at like full charge, right? Full 100% charge. And then you could go on and play. But then, once that battery got down to like 50%, it would literally last maybe 5 minutes, right? Like, I don't know why the hell the battery drains so quick once it gets down under 50%. Like maybe it was defective or, I don't know, right? I don't know. But I know as far as my phone goes, right, 50% battery, that's like, what, like 3 hours, 3.5 hours of usage before that, before it hits zero. So I just thought that was funny. I just wanted to mention that. Um, but yeah, it's, a lot of shit going on in the world right now, so, one thing I want to talk about is earlier I tried to join this popular Christian channel. I believe this guy's name is Big Jon Steel or something like that. Big Jon Steel, and he's like one of these Christian apologist channels. And apparently they have a thing against Hebrew Israelites. Like, say for instance, I seen that Deacon Hakah, or should I say Priest Hakah, inside joke, right? Priest Hakah from the Genesis camp. He called into this guy's stream, I want to say maybe a month ago. And I seen that discussion, man. This guy got bodied, right? This guy got, man, he went out in a damn, he got carried out in a body bag. That's just the easiest way to put it, right? This Christian Big John, he got cooked. He got cooked and he got whooped. Inside joke. But anyway, I called into this guy's stream. I'm patiently sitting there waiting like maybe 20 minutes because there were like two other callers before me, before he, answered my call on the stream. And, then I go on and like, yeah, I am, a Hebrew Israelite. And I kid you not, I literally got booted off in like 2 seconds. Let me tell you this. I got booted off so quick, I didn't even realize that I got booted off the stream. I'm sitting here talking, and I'm like, wait, what? I got removed. Why the hell did I get removed? And it was funny because even the Christians in the audience, like, the 300 people who were watching live, even they came after this guy, John, and said, like, wait, what? Why would you kick that guy? Why didn't you even give that guy a chance to talk? Or they were like, yeah, that's unfair. You got to give the guy a chance to speak. And the most ironic part about it is literally the name of the stream was something like, convince me to leave Christianity, right? So obviously it's like an open invite, for people with, other views or, religious beliefs to come on and have a conversation as to, why they think, Christianity, might be incorrect. But I just found that to be pretty funny though. Like, as soon as I say the word Israelite, you get booted off. It's like, but wait a second, but isn't it like an open panel stream for people of other religious views to join and have a dialogue as to, why Christianity might not be the way? Like, I just find that weird. And, I had two topics in mind, right? I wanted to bring up two different things to this individual, which, I seen his discussion he did with Deacon Hakah. And it's a similar subject, but it's different verses that were not addressed. I wanted to ask him, for one, I wanted to ask him if Christianity, like mainstream Christianity, if that was the true path, well, why is there like 2.6 billion people on earth that claim Christianity? But yet Christ said in the Bible, like, say, for instance, Matthew 7:13, right? He said, broad is the path that leads to destruction, and there are many who are on that path, but the way that leads to life is a narrow path, and only a few find it. So how could only a few find that narrow path if there's apparently, 2.6 billion that are on that path? And even if they want to say, well, not all of them are true Christians, even if we cut it in half, which would be like what, 1.5 billion, like even if we cut it in half, that's still 1.5 billion people that are supposedly on that narrow way. So even that wouldn't make any damn sense. Whereas us Hebrew Israelites, there's only like 1 million of us, right? There's only like 1 million of us, as they call us, BHI. We're low in number. Or you know what? We don't even have to use us. We could use other denominations. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, there's only 200 million Seventh-day Adventists in the world, right? There's only 200 million SDA Christians. So if we're going to use reasoning, like, wouldn't it make more sense that they would be that small group that's on the path to the kingdom? Like, wouldn't that make more sense that those people would be on the path instead of, like, say, for instance, the Catholic Church, which has 1.4 billion members around the world? And then the second topic I wanted to ask him about, it was like an eschatology question. I wanted to ask him, in Revelation chapter 2, verse 2, Christ said, oh, excuse me, not chapter 2, chapter 2, verse 25 to 26. Christ said, to him who overcomes, I'm going to give him power to reign over the nations with a rod of iron. So my question for him was, how would you guys explain that? Right? Like, I know how we explain it, obviously, but my question for this Christian guy is, what's the Christian explanation to that verse? Right? Christ said when he comes back, he's going to give certain people power to reign over nations of people with a rod of iron. I thought that y'all teach that in the kingdom, when the kingdom of heaven is set up on earth, I thought y'all teach that only God's people are going to be there. Like the, unbelievers are all going to be like done away forever. So my question is, so who are the other nations that are going to be ruled over then? And I've never seen anybody give me a satisfying answer to that question. We have an answer to it. Our answer is, well, the other nations, they're going to be allowed to thrive on earth, but they're going to have to be under obedience. Right, they're going to have to be under obedience, like it says in Isaiah. The nations, if they, don't hearken to the voice, it's not going to rain for their crops, right? So there's going to be certain restrictions and, punishments handed out if the nations do not abide by, God's regulations. Hey, it says, the nation and kingdom that shall not serve thee, they will utterly perish by the sword. So that was my questions for this guy. It's like, well, how do y'all explain this? Because, like, literally, if you watch any Christian eschatology video on the internet or any, revelation breakdown, there's never an answer for that verse. Like, everybody just glosses over the verse or just, like, doesn't address it. But I think it's a very good question that should be answered, right? So who are those people that are going to rule over the other nations in God's kingdom? And nobody's given an answer for that. Shit, I can't even say nobody's giving a satisfying answer for it, because nobody's even giving an answer in general, right? So I can't even sit here and say I'm not getting a satisfying answer for this. I'm not even getting an answer in general for the question. You know what I'm saying? Propagate the light. Hey, how you doing? If I'm not mistaken, is that the dude from the stream I was just on? So I joined Big Jon stream. Well, at least I attempted to, that is. And then I joined another stream, already forget the damn channel name. But I went on there for maybe 20 minutes, if even that. But then I had my own sketch. Yeah, that's the dude. Yeah, I had my own stuff, scheduled that I had to get to tonight. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I see. It was you. One thing I'll talk about, earlier today, I went to my own personal adult playground, the Dollar Tree. Shout out to the Wolf Pit. And, I was looking through the the dollar section there, because this is like a Dollar General, but it's still owned by a Dollar Tree. And I happen to find like contractor bags, like huge dark contractor bags. Everybody should know what I'm talking about. And it was funny because I remembered I was at Walmart just prior to that, and I was looking at the contractor bags, and I kid you not, like literally a box of 30 of them is like $90. Right? Let me say that again. A box of heavy duty um contractor bags, they want $90 for that, for 30 of them. I was like, shit. Who the hell out here is buying that? And of course, there were some boxes missing. So it's like the only people buying that are like some of these damn, businesses, out here. Said you're on open panel 15. You mean I was on there 15 minutes, or is that like the name of the panel? I'm not sure what you're saying. Um, but yeah, going back to what I was saying about the contractor bags. So I was at the dollar store then, right? The Dollar General. I was looking in the dollar section, right, where everything's like literally 99 cents. Not $1.25 or not $2, just 99 cents. And I found a box of 2 contractor bags for $1. I was thinking to myself, like, wow, that's a pretty good deal right there. If you do the math on that, that's like 50 cents each bag, right? So I picked up 2 boxes of those just to try them out and see see if they're any good. And they're pretty good. I mean, I can't complain. I mean, they're pretty strong. Like I did the guess I'll say the finger test, right, where you try to poke a hole through the bag to see if it's its strength or whatnot, right? And it actually held up pretty good. I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, for $1, right, 50 cents each bag, that's like a steal right there. Shit, it beats paying $90 for 30 of them, right? Shit, so I got to go back there in the next couple of days and clear out the whole stock. Shit, I'll add those into the garage if the other prepping essentials. Because I used to back in Florida, I used to have to clean up trailers, right? Like they would gut the trailers, and then I would have to go around and do a cleanup, right? Clean up the all the debris, right? And we would use these thick contractor bags, right? Like the damn, $90 ones, which at the time I didn't know they could be that expensive. But then again, maybe they were $20 cheaper because this is like 2019. So, before Corolla, and all the price hikes, increase. You know what I'm saying? Yo, what's up, Eddie? A long time no see. Eddie said, I used to do the same thing, but it was apartments and hotels. Oh, that's interesting, man. Shit, and what were you paid for that, if you don't mind me asking? Because I only was making $8 an hour. You know what I'm saying? It's like, shit, so here it is, I got busting my balls for $8 an hour, and that's literally not even enough to get a damn, you know, foot long from Subway. It's like, shit, wait, what? So an hour, you're telling me that an hour of my time is not even enough to get me a lunch from Subway? Like, how the hell does that make any damn sense? Somebody explain that to me. It's ridiculous, right? It's pathetic. Yeah, is it 14 an hour? Shit, he making double what I'm making. But yeah, it's funny because when I look at some of these like prepping videos on YouTube, which I've been binge watching some of those lately. I had to get back into some of that stuff, to refresh the mind, if you know what I'm saying. Um, and I'm shocked at some things that people are forgetting. Like I'll give you an example, right? Um, oh, just seeing a notification. Thank you, Open Panel 15, for the shout out. Let's see, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. Like, I'll give you an example of something that people don't put in their bug out bags. And I'm a person that's been watching these type of videos and content for, like, say 8 years on YouTube, if not longer, right? So out of literally the hundreds of videos I've seen of, like, bug out bag reviews and, guides, I've literally only seen, like, 2 people out of literally hundreds and hundreds of people that include a pair of nail clippers in the bag. Like, literally, only 2 people out of literally hundreds and hundreds of people have I seen on YouTube that actually include a pair of nail clippers. And I'll even go further than that. I'll tell you this, I've never seen anybody include 2 nail clippers, right? One for your fingers, one for your toes. Everybody just seems to put one in there. And I think to myself, it's like, wait, so you're going to use the one for both your feet and your hands? Like, that's not sanitary right there, man. Right? You get sick quick. You got to put one in for both of them. And I've literally seen nobody think of that on the internet. Like, I'm somehow the only person who figured that out somehow. Like, shit, props to the 2 of you that thought of putting one in, but both of you forgot about having 2 of them. And whatever happened to the prepper notion that 1 is none and 2 is 1? Right? Most preppers live by that slogan. Right? If you, like, say, for instance, if you have 1 hammer, it could be misplaced and you won't know where it is. But if you have 2 of them, if you were to lose one, you'd know where the other one is. Right? So if you have 1, it's as if you had none. But if you had 2, it's as if you had 1, because you could lose one or misplace it, and you still know where the other one is, where the backup is. A lot of people seem to overlook stuff like that. Bear with me a second. I'll give you a bonus as well. Example of something that a lot of people overlook, and that would be paper plates, plastic cups, and plastic silverware. And the reason why that's important is, first of all, if it's a situation where there's no running water, how would you be able to clean plates? Well, the answer is, well, you couldn't. So what a viable solution would be is just use the paper plates and, plastic silverware, stuff like that. And then the upside is you don't even have to, wash the shit. It's funny. It reminds me, I was watching a couple episodes of, these people living cheap, right? I believe they're called cheapskates or something like that. Right. I believe that's the name of the TV show if you want to look it up on YouTube. And it brought to mind this dude that what he would do is save the frozen, yogurt containers, right? Like, the 99-cent ones, the little cup of, vanilla yogurt on the shelf, right? The dude would save the damn cups and like write people's names on them, and then his family would use those as their drinking cups. I'm thinking to myself, it's like, hey, shit, it saves money, I guess, but, is it really, is it really that desperate? And I laughed at myself. It's like the dude lives in a damn, 2-story house. So it's like, why the hell you got to be so cheap? Like, you can't spend the $3 to invest in like a pack of, plastic cups. Like, shit, if you don't want to throw them away, just wash them out and put them back on the shelf. Shit, you can even go a step further and put in everybody's names on them so you don't all just use each other's. You know what I'm saying? But damn, I just thought that was funny. And there was this other guy on there. It was him and his wife were having like their 10th year anniversary, right? So this guy wanted to spend $25 on the entire anniversary, right? Including the cake, the balloon setup, maybe even the food, and shit like that. And the whole episode was about this guy going around trying to negotiate with people to get like a couple cents off of the off of what he wants, right? Like, say, for instance, he went to the damn Dollar Tree and tried to, haggle them down for the price of the, balloons, right? Like, the guy's like, well, that'll be, such and such. And the guy will say, well, could we get, maybe 10 cents off? And try to go back and forth with this guy for like 10 minutes to try to save literally a couple of pennies. Like, I'm not even being, using a figurative of speech. I'm being serious, literally to save just a few pennies. It's like, shit. At that point, just pay the price, and move on. But the most remarkable part about it is a dude went to a professional bakery afterwards and was telling them, y'all, could y'all maybe do the cake instead of, 25? Could you make it down to like maybe 15? And they were like, sorry, we can't do that. And then he's like, well, what if you don't put icing on it? Could you take a couple dollars off? And they said, well, it's part of the process, making it. Then he's like, well, can I bring some of my own products from home and bring it here, and maybe you make it for me, but half price if I provide, like, the baking goods? And trust me, as bad as that sounds and as pathetic as it sounds, it gets much worse than that. So then when they couldn't come to an agreement on that, the worker was like, the best thing we could offer would be these cake pops, right? Which are like basically like little cupcake things that are on like a stick, right? They're called cake pops, which I've had them before. They're not too bad, but not too filling. Um, but here's what happened, right? They were like, will there, $1 each? And the guy's like, could we make that 90 cents? Right? Then he was able to wiggle his way somehow down to like 80 cents for each cake pop. It's like, wow, all of this, argument and going back and forth just to save 20 cents on each cake pop. And I forgot to mention that, and I hope y'all look this up, that this was a really good episode. This was really funny. And then the guy, I forgot to mention about the balloons, right? Not only was he arguing about the price of the balloons, but then he also, remember, this is for a anniversary, right? A 10-year anniversary, and a guy got her cheap balloons. He got her like a fire truck, police car, a graduation balloon, right? I mean, it's just pathetic, right? But remember, his whole goal of all this was to have his wedding celebration, or his anniversary celebration, at a total of $25 for the entire party. Say, wow, that's pretty pathetic right there. That is pretty pathetic. Which I was glad to hear their wedding, um, or excuse me, their relationship, right? Their marriage, I'll say, didn't last very long. Which I don't blame the woman, but I'm surprised that she stayed with this guy for 10 years. It's like, shit, like if this is what this guy is doing on reality TV for the world to see, like, what the hell is this guy like in his day-to-day life? Like, I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. It's pathetic and just laughable. The extent that some people will go to just to save a couple of dollars, or in this case, a couple of pennies, quite literally. Hey, how you doing, Alfred? Here's something I want to mention. I seen that this cat, professing preterist, which he was on Jay's, I believe, Jay Gee's, right? Jay Gee's. So I guess it's technically Jay's channel, but not the Jay that y'all know about. Um, but he was in the comments earlier, and I was like, maybe I'll come up, maybe I won't. But then something happened where this guy ended the stream. So I was like, okay, well, there goes that. But I seen that guy in the comments earlier, and then I also watched a video on his page, a stream that he did the other day, and it was like a commentary about a discussion that he did on Cross the Line Radio, right? The ISUPK, Cross the Line Radio, with Captain Tazariak and Kataza, right? Chataza. Um, Well, which that's a that's a whole nother story by itself, right? That radio show. But I do got to give them credit, man. They dogged on this guy, right? Like, I mean, this was absolutely brutal watching this full preterist guy, call into this stream and, try to debate these guys about, well, who's Israel and about, are all things fulfilled today? It was absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And if I'm not mistaken, this here in the chat was the brother who told me to check his channel out. So shout out to Martin Berto, because if he didn't tell me to check it out, then I would have never seen the conversation. So shout out to that brother, which I'll address your comment in a second. But going back to what I was saying, right? So I watched a conversation between a full preterist and the two captains on the radio show. And man, this was absolutely brutal. Like, say for instance, right? Like, this guy was trying to say that Daniel, the 12th chapter, oh, well, that happened in 70 AD, right? When Michael stood up, the great prince, to fight for the children of Israel. And at that time, thy people will be delivered, right? Everybody who was written in the book. And, his whole argument was, well, that happened back in Christ's day, right? Or, shortly after, right? With the fall of Jerusalem at 70 AD, as like the main conclusion of the Roman Jewish wars from 64 AD to 73 AD. And that's really his whole point there, right? The whole premise of what he was bringing up. And it's just hilarious to me, how stupid this is. It's like, first of all, that talks about a time of trouble that the world has never seen before. Well, that can't be 70 AD. Like, literally, the world has seen much more trouble than 70 AD. Like, don't get me wrong. 70 AD was, a terrible event for the people involved. Definitely a great tragedy. Don't get me mistaken. But there were certainly many other events that happened in the following centuries that were much greater than that, as far as like the loss of life and destruction. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, what about the Black Death from the 13th century? Right? Was it bubonic plague, right? Or Black Death? Look that up on YouTube. Literally, like, I don't know how many people off the top of the head, but you can look this up. It's literally millions upon millions upon millions of people. In fact, here's a fun fact for you. People in those days used to believe that the plague would have been the end of humanity because of how many people were being wiped out by that plague. Just to clarify that. Right, so that was a much greater event as far as its casualties than 70 AD. And that's in the 13th century. So what about, I'll give you another example. What about in the 19th century? Right, the 1900s? Well, actually, let me rephrase myself. I'll say the 20th century. Right? Because the 19th century is considered to be the 20th century, and we're now in the 21st century, right? So let's look at the 1900s, aka the 20th century. The first two world wars happened that literally resulted in the death of, if I'm not mistaken, altogether it's over 100 million people, right? Somebody fact check me on that. It's literally over 100 million people if you combine all the numbers together. That absolutely trumps 70 AD. So again, don't get me wrong, 70 AD was a major event in world history. It was a complete a terrible event for the people involved, absolutely. But we shouldn't pretend that that's like, the greatest evil that the world has ever seen, right? Like the Bible says, right, a time of trouble that the world has never seen. It's like, yeah, that didn't happen yet. Right, that hasn't happened yet. That's talking about the end days that we're living in now. Right, the world's going to experience trouble and bad times that it's never seen before. But I just find it ironic that this guy will sit there and tell you that's 70 AD right there. That's 70 AD. It's like, well, how the hell could that be the case if there's all these other historical wars and tragedies that took place that I'm mentioning here that are literally centuries and centuries and centuries after 70 AD, which completely trump 70 AD. So logically explain that to me. Like, how could 70 AD be like the greatest trouble that the world's ever seen, right? And all things were fulfilled there, if literally all these other world events happen after that time. Yeah, that brother put it up here. Martin Burdo said 16 million died in World War I and 60 to 85 million in World War II. Wow, think about that, right? Think about that, right? So again, I was right. It's, say, roughly 100 million people if you combine both the wars together, right? So again, nobody's taking anything away from the Bible, right? 70 AD was definitely a great tragedy for the Israelites, absolutely. And definitely a great siege in history. But that has nothing on World War I and World War II and the Black Death from the 13th century. And you know what? I could even keep going on with the amount of wars and, plagues and, mass casualty events that happened in the 20th century. Like, literally, we could keep going on and on. We could keep throwing out names and, locations and events. It's like, I don't know what else these guys want. Like, what could you give these guys to satisfy, this delusion that they have in the head? It's remarkable to me. This brother said, preterist thinks we are in the millennial reign. I mean, that's hilarious, right? If he believes that. Which I'm pretty sure they believe we're after that time, though, because again, in their perspective, all things are fulfilled, right? Like literally everything from Genesis, the first chapter, all the way down to the last page of the Bible, they believe has been fulfilled, right? That's their perspective on it, right? It was all like concluded at the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. That was like the grand conclusion, and that was it, right? The Bible was completely fulfilled at that time, which is completely retarded and ridiculous. And the captains cut this dude deep when he tried to go to, say, for instance, Revelation 21 and then Isaiah 60, which, to be fair, Chatazar was the one who brought this up, not Preterist, but they still cut this guy because they asked him the question about, it says in Revelation 21, it defines the kingdom of heaven, right? And it talks about it having great walls and great gates that people would enter into the kingdom. So they asked him, well, what does that mean? Like, if we're in the kingdom now, like what are these gates? And then he's like, oh, well, it's not literal. Then they asked him, well, why does it talk about the kings of the other nations bringing their riches through the gates to the kingdom? That's a cut. But I'll go even deeper, right? Since I'm over here, challenger deep myself, I'll go max level, right? I'll go next level deep. Here's my point with the same chapter. It says that above the gates, each gate, there was 12 gates, and above the gate had a name for each of the 12 tribes to enter into, right? Like one gate would be Judah, another one for Ephraim, another gate for Manasseh, and so on and so forth, right? And also above the gate, it had one of the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb, right? One of the gates had each of the names of the apostles, right? Like one gate would have John's name, another gate would have Matthew's, and so on and so forth. So how is that not literal then? That's a spiritual KO right there. But you know what? I'll go even deeper, right? I'll go 9 miles deep. Inside joke, right? But here's the knockout. This is the nail in a full preterist coffin right here. Here's the knockout. So, say for instance, damn, hold on a second. Let me read this. Here, I'll be right back. Just give me a second. All right, my apology. But going back to what I was saying, is here's a nail in the coffin. If you ask this guy if he believes the Great Flood was literal, tell you yes. If you ask him, well, what about Noah's Ark? Like, say, for instance, if you read from Genesis 6, it gives us, like, the literal layout and the dimensions, and the length and how the ark was built. Obviously, he'll say that's literal. It's like, okay, so what about, say, the Ark of the Covenant? It gives you literally the whole breakdown and how it was constructed and built. What about the temple that King David erected, and then his son Solomon? It gives you the instructions and like the materials used to construct the building, right? Or what about the tabernacle that was in the wilderness in the Exodus story? It literally gives you the instructions on how they built it. Now, somebody might say, "Well, why go over that?" Well, here's the reason why. That this is the knockout. So, if you believe all of those are literal, so by what form of logic would you then say that when the Bible gives us the literal uh, instructions on how the kingdom would be built? Like, say, for instance, it had a wall great and high, it had 12 gates. The walls are made of all rubies, the streets were made with pure gold, and so on and so forth. So why would that not be literal then? Like, if it literally gives the layout and the materials used for its construction, why would that one not be literal? But then on the other hand, you'll say that, Noah's Ark was literal, the tabernacle was literal, the temple are literal. Um, the Ark of the Covenant was literal because it gives instructions on how all of those things were built and the materials used. So, if all of those are literal, which clearly they are, so why would the kingdom of heaven not be literal then when it literally gives the instructions and the materials used to construct the kingdom? That's a knockout right there. Somebody call the ambulance because full preterist is code blue. I mean, this guy is, man, this brother is gasping, for air after that one. Man, oh, man, it knocked the wing right out of this dude, and metaphorically speaking. Yeah, but that's man, that's the knockout right there. Yeah, look at that, look at that. Exactly what I was talking about. Look at this, Revelation 21:19. It says, "And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones." And then, then it goes forth into all the different stones, right? And I'll even give you the second one. I don't have to read it. But you can literally read that yourself. And look, it goes into all the materials that were used to construct these walls. Give another one. Right, good verses, good verses. But again, all of this is showing that this is literal, right? Like, this is literal. And this completely annihilates full preterism because, again, their premise, their view on it is that the kingdom of God is like not physical. It's like something metaphoric, right? Like, say, for instance, they'll tell you that metaphorically we're living in the kingdom today, right? Like, Jesus is in your heart, right? The kingdom's in your heart, right? So we're in heaven today. But then when all these verses that talk about a literal kingdom, well, that's not literal. Well, we're clearly showing you proof it is literal. Like, I'll give you another one. Right, here is I'm gonna spice it up a little bit. Let me throw in a bonus here. Right, like if you read Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44 on down, it says that in the end of these kings, God's gonna set up a kingdom that shall reign forever and shall break in pieces all these nations. Wait a second, what? So God's going to set up a eternal kingdom after these kings, and it's going to reign forever and break down every other kingdom. Well, first of all, here's the question: how can this metaphorical kingdom break down physical kingdoms? Obviously, for any reasonable person, they could conclude, well, obviously, it's because that kingdom is literal. It's not metaphoric. It's not symbolic. It is clearly literal. Which that's obviously the answer, right? It is a physical kingdom that's going to be on the earth. Like, say, for instance, in the Father's prayer in Matthew the 6th chapter, it says, "Thy kingdom come." Well, where's thy kingdom coming to? Obviously, the earth, right? Hell, and even in Revelation, it even depicts the kingdom coming down to the earth, from the heavens. So, I mean, these guys are cooked, right? Full preterism is cooked. Anybody that can be a full preterist in the year 2025, that person is just a delusional person and a very unreasonable person. And that's just what it is, man. It's so remarkable to me, the level of ignorance that I'm seeing. It's really strange to me, some of this garbage I'm seeing on the internet. It's like it seems as if there's like no end of the garbage that we're seeing on here. Shit, like I'll give you an example, right? Like there's guys on here talking about, Mary was sinless, the Old Testament God is Satan, Jesus did away with the laws, so on and so forth. Oh, here's another one. I seen that this guy, a full preterist, he did a live stream the other day, and I believe it was on the channel 13 above, if you want to look it up. And this other dude I know, this cat Ronan, which is like another Israelite out there. He called in, and man, these guys are going back and forth. I only got to watch like 25 minutes of the discussion because I had to do something I had scheduled then, so I plan on going back and watching the rest of the 2-hour discussion. But it was pretty good from the first 25 minutes. Man, these guys, it was brutal. It was brutal. Which real I gotta give what's this guy? Ronan, right? I gotta give Ronan, we'll call that brother Ronnie. Side joke. Right, but this guy Ronan, right, Ronnie, he mopped the floor with that Christian panel, including full preterist guy. Like, say for instance, right, the panel was like, oh, well, Jesus fulfilled the law, right? He did away with all of it. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, the Bible literally tells you what it means. It doesn't mean that he did away with the law, so now you can go out and steal from the store, or eat bacon, right? Or that shrimp, crab, and lobster. It doesn't mean that. The Bible literally tells you what it means by he fulfilled, um, these things. If you read Acts chapter 3, verse 18, and Luke chapter 24, verse 44, it says that Christ fulfilled all the things that were written about him in the law and in the prophets and in the Psalms. Right, so that's what Christ meant by it is fulfilled when he said that on the cross. It wasn't saying that he fulfilled the law and now you don't have to keep it anymore. That's clearly not what he was saying. If you read the context and read what the Bible says, when he says he fulfilled, it's saying that he fulfilled all the things that are in the Psalms and in the prophets that were concerning him. Like, I'll give you one example. Like, if you read Deuteronomy 18, verse 18, that's a prophecy about Christ. So that's something he fulfilled. Isaiah 7:14, Isaiah 53. Right, those are all examples of things that are written in the prophet's writings before him that he has fulfilled. And somebody might say, well, what about the law? Well, the Deuteronomy example is in the law. Right, that is in the law right there. So that's an example that he fulfilled. As far as that question in the comment section, I wouldn't say that it's I wouldn't say it's a correlation, right? It's just well, first of all, Ezekiel 28 is not Satan, right? If you read the top, it tells you that it was talking about a particular king, right? So that's not Lucifer there. So that would be a disagreement. But as far as the covering, it's sure, they might be similar, but it's not a correlation. Shit, like I'll give you an example, right? Like this guy Dean Odell, he recently came out in his ministry and said, well, when these guys from the final experiment, when they went down to Antarctica, that was actually Satan in the sky that circled their heads. That was actually Satan. And people will quote, well, Bible says that Satan can transform himself into an angel of light. It's like, sure, it says he can transform himself into an angel of light, but that doesn't mean it's the damn sun. right? So like let's be reasonable and read in context. Sure, Satan can transform into an angel of light, but that doesn't mean the damn sun in the sky. Like literally, it's two separate things. Like people don't want to keep it in context. It's a shame. It's stupid. Let me check something. But yeah, man, it's just strange and it's just bizarre to me. All these, weird doctrines that people are making up, on the internet these days, man. Like, it seems like there's no endless, it's an endless pit, basically, right? There's no end to the amount of, garbage that people, just make up on the fly. It's ridiculous. Shit, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I was on a stream earlier and there was a guy, which he was respectful, right? So I'm not going to, diss on him. But he was saying, like maybe like have you ever heard the theory that people are saying about like how the burning bush and the Exodus story might have actually been like, some type of, substance plant, right? So when, Moses went over to it, he actually like got high from the plant. When I heard that, I was like, damn, is that really like a new theory that people are going around saying? Like I've heard people say that the plant is like metaphorical, like not literal. I've heard that, but to say that it was like a substance, to get high, it's like, damn, I never heard of that one before. It's like people are just making up, new garbage, like, every other day it seems. Yeah, as far as Satan goes, um, God created Satan that way. Like Satan serves God, right? Satan is a servant to God. He does God's will. Like say for instance in Job the second chapter, he went to God and God gave him permission to go bring hardships upon Job, but God told him he had to spare his life, right? So he went and did God's will, right? He did what God told him he could do, but he followed his instructions, right? So our view as Hebrew Israelites versus the Christian view, we don't believe that Satan and God are like enemies. We believe that Satan is an order under God, and he follows orders. Same thing with demons. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, if you read Mark, the 5th chapter, with that man possessed with the legion of demons, they even said, we believe, right? They believe that Christ was the Son of God. They call him that. And they said, give us the permission, we'll come out of the man, but grant us the permission that we can go into the herd of swine. Right. So those demons, they feared and they believed on him, right? And did as he said. Right. So that shows that both the demons and Satan, they follow God's orders. They're not just going around the earth, at their own will, causing havoc everywhere. That's not true. Amos 3:6, if there's evil in the city, was God not the one who did it? It's asking you a question. Right, like it's making a statement and asking you, like, do you not know this? That's what it's saying. Another weird thing that happened over here in the States is over this past week, there were two airplane crashes. Like the first one, there was like a military helicopter that flew into just a regular civilian aircraft, right? Like, a regular airplane. I believe like 60 people passed away in that event. And then just like maybe 2 days ago now, there was another event over in Philadelphia where I don't think this one was a full airplane. It was just like a civilian's airplane they bought and, were flying over the city. And then they crashed in Philadelphia. I believe like 6 people passed away. But still, that's pretty weird. Like, a plane accident happens every once in a while, and they're usually not always, deadly. Like, people don't always die in these events, because usually the planes are designed to be able to, take an impact and possibly land safely. Like, say, for instance, they could take a bird strike, which, if you don't know what that is, it's, like, say, if there's like a flock of birds flying and some of them hit the propellers, right, the engines, the plane isn't just going to fall out of the sky right there. It's built with safety in mind, so it could try to like glide, to the nearest, airport to land. Right, that's the way they designed it, right? So usually when these type of things happen, people don't get hurt. It's just the aircraft that gets damaged, right? But this time, in both of these events, people passed away. So that's kind of rare, right? Like, for two of those things to happen, in 1 week. It gives me flashbacks to 2012, right? Remember, everybody thought the world was going to end back then, but the reason it gave me flashback to it, I remember some news articles back then. There was a school that was on the news like 2 days in a row. Like, one day there was a damn alligator that somehow got into the playground at the school. And then the next day, a damn airplane landed in the field of the same school, right? Like, crash landed into the the field area outside the school premises, right? And the news was like, shit, it's like the end of the world. Like, how are these things happening to, this one place right here, like literally day after each other, right? Like, what are the odds of that happening? It's very strange. And, everybody thought that the world would end that year because of the Mayan calendar, right? Look that up, right? Everybody thought the Mayan prediction landed on the year 2012. And then people were like, well, maybe it's actually 2020 or, 2022. It's just funny. Uh, well, it's comparing both of them together, right? It's comparing the King of Tyrus and Lucifer together. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, if you read Isaiah the 14th chapter, right? Everybody goes there to talk about, Satan, Lucifer, his fall from heaven. But yet, if you read the fourth verse, it tells you that this is a whole parable against the king of Babylon, right? So the Lucifer in the chapter is actually the king of Babylon, and his fall from power. That's what the whole chapter is really about, but it calls him Lucifer. But if you read the context, the whole chapter is a parable against the king of Babylon, not about this Lucifer or Satan character. Excuse me. All right, we're approaching an hour here. Stream seems long tonight, but I think that's because I just before this I tried to get on this Big Jon, whatever that guy's name is, and then I went on to this other panel platform for maybe 20 minutes. So maybe that's why. But an hour isn't really an hour really isn't too long though. Because, like, say for instance, right, like earlier I went to the Applebee's restaurant, which it's been a couple years since I've been there. And I had this new thing they have out. I believe it's like a $10 meal option, right? You get like a burger, you get fries, and a drink, and a couple free refills if you want it. And that's what you get as the $10 meal deal. I was thinking, shit, that's pretty good because if you were to go to McDonald's, like, say if you were to order like the fish fillet, right, the filet o fish, I believe they call it. Shit, that's like $5 for one. Right, so say you get two and a pack of fries and a Coke to go with that, we're talking about maybe $17. We're talking about damn near double the price for this Applebee's meal. I'm thinking to myself, say, shit, for this price, shit, I might have to go here a couple days a week. Shit, it beats making it at a home or going to these, fast food restaurants out here, right? Well, I guess you could say Applebee's is kind of like fast food, but then again, it's just a restaurant. So there is a difference between them. Shit, and even if you wanted, right, like say regular people, they could even get bacon on that burger as well, and it'd still be $10. I'd think they would up it a little bit. Like, how you can get like add-ons, right? And they'll like up it like 70 cents, maybe $1. But no, the bacon comes with it, which, we don't eat it, of course, over here, because that goes against the scriptures. But, if somebody was to eat that, they could get it for the same price. Which, you know what, I'll say this. I think when you go to the restaurants, like say, for instance, I get my burgers plain, right? I don't get any lettuce, tomato, or, pickles or any of that on it. So I think that they should take a couple cents off of the bill then, because they're technically saving, part of the servings they would give you, right? And then they can use it for somebody else, right? They don't got to cut the pickle for you. They don't got to, cut the tomato. They don't got to lay the lettuce, right? So they should take a couple cents off, like say 20 cents, 50 cents off of the burger's price, because they're saving, some food, because you're not getting the whole thing. Especially if we're talking about taking the bacon off. Shit, that should be a whole $1 right there. Right, taking the bacon. Man, it's funny, like this society is obsessed with bacon, right? You see that everywhere, man. You see the bacon shit. Like I'll give you an example. Like if you ever watched the ERB, right, Epic Rap Battles of History, it was Santa Claus versus Moses. And there was a part in the rap right on Santa Claus side where one of the elves says, well, wait, in his religion, right, there's no bacon. Right, I believe Santa said that, right? Santa said, right, and in your religion, there's no bacon, but you have to get mandatory circumcisions. And all the elves are like, wait, what? Right, they couldn't believe it. It was hilarious. Man, that was a good rap, right? That was a good rap, but I gotta say that Moses won, right? Moses won. Well, to be fair, they got Snoop Dogg to be Moses, so I mean, whoever's playing Santa got no chance though. But man, that was well written from both sides. But shit, just want to give that example about the bacon being used, right? Like even the damn elves couldn't believe that. Bear with me a second. Right, right. And, and that goes back to what we say. What we say that you can't follow the law 100%, right? You can't follow the law 100% perfectly today. That's why we're under grace, right? So, say for instance, right, like if you go to a restaurant, you don't know that they didn't just cook your food on the same say pot or kitchenware that they just cooked bacon on like 10 minutes ago. You don't know that, right? They could have just been made on the same surface. So we would be forgiven for that because that's out of our control, right? That would be out of our control. So again, you can't keep every law in the Bible today. There's no person on earth that can keep every single law in the Bible perfectly today. There's nobody who can do it. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of something you can't keep. Like when you read in the law, um, say for instance, like Leviticus, I want to say the 15th chapter, when it speaks about a woman being unclean on her period, right? It says that she's supposed to be set apart for 7 days, right? So men back then, they would have like a second house or like maybe a built onto their house where their wife could go for a week, why she's on her menstrual, right? Because everything that woman sits on will be considered to be unclean, right? So she would have to be set apart for a week in the law. But you can't do that today. First of all, most of us, well, shit, I'm out here sharing a bed with 4 people. I'm living in a Rio, Brazil style slum, so I can't, hell, if I had a woman, I couldn't go by that, right? But guess what? Everybody else and everybody listening to this, that's something that you most likely can't abide by, because I'm going to take a bet here and say nobody listening to this video has 2 houses. Some of you might own 1 house, but none of you own 2 houses. I would say that I'm pretty sure that every single person watching this probably doesn't even own 1 house, but if you did, you don't own 2. So guess what? You wouldn't be following this law completely, because that woman is still in the same house as you. She couldn't be separated for a week. Whereas if a man does have 2 homes, like say one in the back he has there for his wife, you know, she could be separated for the week, right? To be purified while she's on her menstrual cycle, according to the law. But guess what? Today, you can't separate your wife. The best you could do is maybe have her sleep on another bed, right? That's the best that you can do today. So again, you can't perfectly keep everything in the law. That's why we're under God's grace today, right? God's grace is there. So if we do make a mistake and mess up, we can be covered under his son's blood that he shed. But of course, that doesn't mean that you're allowed to just go willingly be wicked. And that's what these free gracers try to do, right? And these Perry Green, students, right? Like, oh, Jesus died for me to continue to do what I want as long as I don't call it sin. It's like, no, dummy, that's clearly not true. Clearly not correct. Like even Paul spoke about it, right? Like Romans 6:14, where we're not under the law, but we're under grace. Then verse 15 says, what then? Shall we continue to sin because we're not under the law, but under grace? God forbid. Right? So that's what grace is. Grace means that you can receive forgiveness if you mess up, but that doesn't mean it's that you get a license to go around and just commit whatever the sin you want. That's clearly not what it means. So sure, some of the ways that our food is prepped today might not be totally correct according to the law, but you can't live by the law completely. You can't totally live by the law today. And that's where that grace comes in. Like say, for instance, something that's in your control that you can live by is the type of foods that go into your body. Like say, for instance, if you go to a restaurant, don't order something unlawful, right? That's in your control. Right? Don't order unlawful food. That is in your control. But something out of your control is, say, for instance, maybe they use the same spatula on your burger that they might have just flipped bacon with a few minutes prior. Right? Or I'll give another example. Maybe the utensils that you're eating chicken with at the restaurant, maybe a few days ago somebody was eating ribs with that same fork. So again, you can't control all these things. Some of these things are out of your control. I'll give you another example. Like, say, for instance, if you go to the grocery store, how do you know that the goods that you're putting into your cart were not just set on the shelf prior by a woman that's on her menstrual cycle? So guess what? That would be unclean. Like, say, for instance, you'll have a woman out there that's stocking the freezers at Walmart that might be on her menstrual, right? Because women have to work, whether they're on that or not, right? So maybe she's stocking the stuff and then you grab one of them, like let's say for hypothetical argument that it's like, let's say Lunchables or, bread or whatever, and then you get one of them and buy it. But little do you know, that's unclean because a woman on her menstrual touched it. And the Bible considers that to be unclean. So again, you can't control all these different variables. So anybody who says that they're living completely by the law perfectly, that person is a liar and a hypocrite. In fact, I would be willing to bet money that person doesn't even know the 10 Commandments in order off of the top of their head, so let alone the other 603. Like, say, for instance, like some of these preachers on YouTube, like Perry Green, that dude couldn't even name 5 off the top of the head. Bear with me a second. Shit, like, I'll give you another example, right? Like, you got these guys going around like, yeah, I keep the law, right? I keep the law. It's like, okay, well, why is your face shaven? Right? Why is your face shaven then? Like, why don't you have any facial hair then? Like, in the law, it says that you're not supposed to, bring a razor to your face, right? Or to your head, right? You're not supposed to be bald. You're not supposed to have no facial hair, right? That goes against the law. So that's a law these guys, by large majority, are not abiding by. Bear for me a second. Well, the question you're asking, I can't use that particular word on YouTube because that's a censor word. Okay, but what I can tell you is that in the context, I think they just meant by like a different meaning, like a different context to the word. Right. That's like the best way I could explain it. Like, sometimes words can have like different meanings to them, right? So they could mean different things depending upon the um the usage of them. Like, say, for instance, the word wear. Like, I could say, where are you going? Or what pants are you going to wear? Right. In fact, I'll give you a fun fact for you. They say that English is the hardest language in the world to learn because so many words have different context and usages. So the way you understand what somebody is saying with the words they're speaking with is by listening to the context in which they're talking about. That's how you could determine what they mean because most words in the English vocabulary can have multiple different possible meanings. Right? Just a fun fact to put out there. It might not seem like that for people like us who were born and raised, speaking English, our whole life. But, according to, the people that research this stuff, that's what they've concluded as far as like world languages as like a whole collective. I'll be right back. I gotta grab a drink. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. There's some people on the internet that deny that even happened. I don't deny that. Um, Again, I would deny that those are the true people of God, though. That I certainly would deny, right? The 1948ers are not the children of Israel, right? They are imposters, or as racist Mario would say, they are pretendos. They are pretendos. Inside joke. Look that video up, by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Look it up on YouTube, racist Mario. Should be the first one, and then you'll get what I'm talking about. Shit, that's an old one. I believe that one's like, what, 10 years old or something like that? Man, but that's a classic, right? As Jay would say, that's a hood classic. Let me see. Yeah, we'll go a couple more minutes. Gotta be in by 3. Yeah, it said 10 years old and 163 million views. Damn, it got that many views? Man, that guy must be, must have some cash, right? Some serious cash from that video alone to have that many views. And that's the thing with some of these, like, top YouTubers, like, say, for instance, like, they'll make money continually off of old videos. Like, say, for instance, like, they might do a video from 2 years ago and they'll still keep getting views and getting, ads played on those videos and keep making money off of those, right? So, say, for instance, if somebody does, like, say, 500 videos over the course of, like, 5 years, maybe, so let's say 100 videos a year, which, depending on the class of video they do, would probably be difficult. But they could continue to make money on that. Shit, they could get to a point where they might only have to do, like, what, maybe 2 videos a month and still be raking in, a 6-figure income, right? Living that sweet life. Shit, let me give you an example. Like, I don't know how some people do it, man. I really don't. Like, here it is. I got to stretch $20 for a week, you know what I'm saying? Or longer, and have to eat, canned food, and shit like that. And, have to live in a Rio Brazil style slum. But on the other hand, there's people out here I see on YouTube that are literally out there, living, like, out on the seas, right? Like, they buy a boat for a couple $100,000 and live out at sea for months and months and months at a time, and then come back to the shore, restock for a while and just go back out to sea for a couple months. Like, I don't know how some of these people do it. Like, sure, you don't, have a job out there. Like, the only thing I could think of them doing is maybe something online. But then again, how do you have internet access in the middle of nowhere? Like, if you're sailing across the the seas, whatever. Like, maybe there's ways they could get, like, Starlink or something. But I don't know. Shit, they claim that there's 50,000 satellites circling the Earth, so there should be internet access anywhere you go, whether it be the middle of the ocean, the Amazon rainforest, um, out in Egypt somewhere, deserts, anywhere on Earth you go, there should be internet access to some degree or another, because there's supposedly 50,000 satellites orbiting the Earth. So why the hell is it that there's all these, like, dead zones on Earth where you can't pick up signal? Maybe the answer is because there's not as many as they claim, and they're actually much closer to the Earth than what they claim. Right? Like, people call them sataloons. Right? Like, there was a sataloon, which, if you don't know what that is, it's, these satellites attached to high altitude weather balloons. Right? Like, big white balloons. In fact, one crash landed in Brazil, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago. You can look the video up on YouTube. Right, there was one that crash landed right? The balloon popped and it landed back to the earth, right? And landed in Brazil. Let me see here. Man, I'm glad I got damn socks on tonight. Typically, I don't wear socks because I use Crocs, right? I use Crocs for like say 95% of the time when I go out somewhere, right? So those shoes you don't need socks on, right? But I'm glad I put them on tonight because damn cold out here. I recently found a good deal. I found like a name brand, which I forget the name of the brand off the top of the head, but it's a name brand um pack of like I believe there's 20 pairs of socks in it. Like nice thick, winter socks. They were only like $3. Like they were on clearance. It's like shit, that many for $3? Shit, if they had more, I would have picked up more. Shit, same thing. Hell, now we've came full circle, right back to the beginning of the stream. I was gonna say same thing with those contractor bags I just talked about an hour ago. Right, same thing with them. Shit, I'm gonna go back and I'm going to, raid the whole store of those contractor bags. I'm gonna purchase every one they got, and then some. Another thing that I've been checking out. I went to I was looking into Walmart, like the airbed section. They got this cool thing there. It's like a couch, like a foldable couch, and a mattress at the same time. Like it's a mattress that folds in half into like a couch, and it's only like $30. I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I'd expect it to be at least $60, but it's actually just $30. So in the next place, right when we're out of this slum area, we're going to get that one. We just got to hope it still stays $30, though. Let's see. I was looking at the fishing section as well, right? It pissing me off because, I had to sell my fishing pole, right? I had a fishing pole. Well, technically, I had two of them, so I technically sold both of them. But the one that I had, my first fishing pole, I got when I was 10 years old, right? I got it for Christmas when I was 10 years old. And I used it, I want to say a couple dozen times over the decade, but I ended up having to sell it because, I was strapped for cash, just as Lorcan Rose would say. And, I needed a couple dollars. So I sold it at my recent yard sale. I got like $20 for it, but to be fair, originally it was only like $45, so you can't ask for a whole lot, you know what I'm saying? So $20 for a used fishing pole, that's a decade old, it's reasonable. And a whole nother thing, like I'll go on a rant about this, in the closing remarks of the stream, like about these yard sales that I'm seeing, man. Like I've been through a whole number of yard sales over the years, and it's just remarkable to me how like everything is so dirty, and trashed. It's like if y'all are out here selling like say nice fine china or uh, glass or just tools or anything, it's like y'all don't have the decency to just like take an hour or two and like clean these things off. Like, say for instance, nobody wants to buy an old, rusty, and what's the word I'm looking for? Dusty, pot or a coffee maker or a toaster. But if you clean these things up a little bit, it will increase the chance of people buying it. Like I'll give you an example. Like I had some old glass from a warehouse. It was all dusty and spider webs in it. So I took some time, cleaned them out, which only took like maybe 5 minutes, and they sold. right? So the way that I can make a lot of money at a yard sale, and the reason why other people make very little money, is because I actually take some time to clean out the products that I'm selling, make them look presentable, right? Make them look presentable to the people, and the odds are that you'll sell. Like, say for instance, like I'll go invest like $3 into buying like a pack of baby wipes, or clean wipes of some sort, and go through and clean all the products down, make sure everything is all clean, not dirty, not dusty, to make it look presentable to the people that come by to look. And if you do that, it's going to increase the chance of you selling. And another thing you want to do, like here's some tips people might want to take down if you got to do a yard sale. Take this from somebody that has some experience with it. Um, Another thing you can do is make deals with people, right? And then that will increase the chance that they'll buy from you. In fact, I'll give you an example. Like, I was on the corner, right? Like, where I used to live was on the corner, right, of the street next to a local store, right? So it was like a popular spot for the yard sale. Um, so over the years, people will keep coming back to me, right? Like, say for the years I would be there to do it, people would keep coming back because I give good deals on my stuff for reason, or sell stuff for a reasonable price. So say for instance, a guy came back this year and bought like $70 worth of stuff, but we sold him like $40 worth of stuff last time he came, right? So he remembered that we would be there, right, for the community yard sale event. So they made sure they came over to stop by and see what we got, because last time we were polite with them and you gave them reasonable deals for stuff. I'll tell you something. I've never had a yard sale where I make under $100, which for my level of poverty is pretty damn good. But usually I'll make a couple $100 at a yard sale. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, the best yard sale I ever done, we made like 650, right? Like 650 off of stuff for just doing Saturday and Sunday, right? But there are other people out there I talked to that were also doing the sales that made like what, $60, $40. And another thing as well, not only do you want to sell at these yard sales, you may also want to start going to some yard sales, because you'll start finding some deals. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I found the book of Enoch for $1. But yet the same one I looked on Amazon, they want $15 for it, for the same book. It's like, sure, it's used, but I mean, it's in good condition, nothing wrong with it. I'll give you another example. I found like a heavy duty plastic shelf, right, for like garage storage. If I was to buy it brand new, it'd probably be about $60. But I got it they wanted $10 for it, but since it was the end of the day, they were willing to take $8 for it. Just clean it down and it looks brand new, right? Nothing wrong with it at all. So that's just a couple of examples of how, if you look around, and bargain with people, you can find good deals at some of these, yard sales. It's funny. I had a buddy of mine that I grew up with who, like, every weekend, this guy would have to go to the yard sales for like Saturday and Sunday. And that's like how they made their rent money, right? So his mom, she didn't work, which I'm sure she got, some SSI payments, I'm sure. But then on the side to make money, they went to flea markets like every weekend and, sold stuff and, made hundreds and hundreds extra, which wasn't, amazing money since it's, the trailer park after all. But they made enough to get by with their government handout, right? So with the handout and with just a couple of extra dollars from the flea market every week, they were able to get by. I just find it funny. Like, my friend wasn't available on most weekends because he had to go to the damn, flea market every damn week. Let's see. We'll go a couple more minutes. Hey, look, I was right, right? About an hour and a half today. Which, if anybody made it to the end, put hashtag panel. Hashtag panel if anybody made it to the end of the live stream, which I could go for maybe 2 more minutes. We'll start wrapping it up here. Because I said I wanted to be on here an hour and a half today. So I'm going to keep it to that. Oh, and then also, on the other hand, I don't want to waste all of my StreamYard time because I only get 20 hours a month to do a stream. Which, again, you really can't complain, right? You really can't complain to StreamYard. I mean, they're doing us a favor by letting us use their streaming service for 100% free. Or you can get a few upgraded boost by paying $50 a month, which who the hell has that type of money to pay $50 a month? They should have kept it at 25, which what it was for a while. I believe it was actually 20 before that, right? Like 3 years ago, wasn't it $20 a month? If I'm not mistaken, then it was up to like 25, and now 50. It's like, screw that. I'm just gonna use my 20 hours a month wisely. That's what I'm gonna do. I mean, hey, look, all you got to do is just 2-hour live streams a couple of times, and there you go. I mean, what more can you ask for? And then also, if you're smart, you can strategically use the time. Like, say, for instance, if I use up to like, say I have like 30 minutes of time left or an hour of time left, I can run completely past that time for multiple hours past the limit, and allow you to. Say, for instance, you could get like 28 hours for free on StreamYard, right? Using 8 hours past the stream limit if you want. But bear with me a sec. I just had to, on the second device here, I just had to put the install now update that came through. But yeah, back to what I was saying. Shit, what was I saying? Now I forgot. Oh yeah, about the StreamYard time. "30 minutes, you could get hours longer." Now bear with me a second. My internet might turn off, so if I do cut out, do excuse that. Just a heads up in advance. Which, to be fair, it's already an hour and a half, so I'm past my time now, if it does cut off. But the second device, which I'm using the internet from, is currently off for the moment, so it's most likely going to shut the service off. And this is bullshit what I have to do. I have to sit here, and use the internet from a hotspot from another device to stream on this one. It's just bullshit, the levels of, half-assery that I got to do, the hoops and the hurdles that I have to jump through in order to do a live stream on YouTube that gets like, what, 100 views? It's bullshit. It's absolute BS, the garbage that I got to go through to do what I'm doing. But hey, I do it, right? I do it. Shit, it reminds me of a meme I've been seeing on YouTube recently, right? The meme was like this guy opened a book. The book was entitled, "How Do I Stop Worrying About Tasks?" And then when he opened it, it said, complete the task, right? That's the that's the way to stop worrying about the task you got to do. You just got to complete the task. Like, say, for instance, if there's a chore that needs to get done, may as well just do it right now. Right? Why what's the word I'm looking for? Procrastinate, if I'm saying that right, and push it off to another time. Why not just get up and do it right now? Like, say, for instance, if there's a couple plates over there in the sink that need to get done, why not just go do it now so you don't gotta worry about it later? Or if the trash needs to get thrown in the the outside bin, why not just go do it now? Get it done. Now that's the mindset you gotta have sometimes, man. I've been recently looking into some of these like small homes, like some of these, like, say, for instance, there's a trend that people are doing where they take like a storage, what are these things? Shipping containers, like on cargo ships, where they transport the merchandise across the world from country to country. I should say from crunchy to crunchy, inside joke. Shout out to Larkin Rose. But, you know, they take them and then they modify them and make like small homes out of them. Like, say you could connect 4 of them together, right? Like 2 on the bottom, 2 on top. And you can connect them by floors, right? Like maybe cut out the middles and put like a damn, weld them together and then like put stairs leading from the bottom to the top or something like that. Again, there's like a million different designs that people use, but they make like small homes out of these shipping containers. Or I'll give you another one. Not only the shipping containers, but out of like big sheds. Like if you ever go to like Home Depot or Lowe's in the summertime, you might see those big sheds they have outside. Some people buy them for a couple grand and just modify the inside to make a little home out of it. Look it up on YouTube. It's pretty interesting. Right? Pretty interesting. Of course, first and foremost, you got to have some land to put that on if you do decide to do that. And then second of all, you got to have the funding to do the shit. So at the end of the project, it's probably going to be like what, 100 grand, if not more, excluding the land. Just the property alone is going to be thousands and thousands, thousands. But then if we consider the home being put on it and built, that's how much more. So even to take on these projects, you got to have, a big wallet in order to even consider doing them. Let me see here. If anybody has any last minute question or comment, do get that in now because I'm going to be closing very shortly. So if there's any last thing on your mind, make it known now. Okay. No, that's all right. I get what you're saying. Okay. So I think I'm going to wrap the stream up there. I do thank everybody for stopping by tonight. And of course, to those who are going to be listening to the stream in post production, or may I say after the stream ends, whatever word you like to use. Thank everybody for stopping by tonight. And I'm going to close the stream out with that.